What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the EP by 36 Mafia. Basically, this EP is called Live by Yo Rep B.O.N.E, and it came out in the fall of 1995. Now, this is another hit project from 36 Mafia in 95. Their previous project, which was Mystic Stylez, did a lot of damage in 95. Kind of got them pretty good underground reputation. I reviewed Mystic Stylez way back in 2015. I don't remember which version of that album I reviewed, if it was the reissue or if it was the original 1995 version, but I reviewed one of those and it was actually pretty enjoyable. I like that. I'm more used to like 36 Mafia from like 2000s era forward, which would be stuff like When the Smoke Clears, Choices the album, and just things after those particular projects. But I do at least faintly remember Mystic Stylez. I need to actually purchase that album because it's been a while since I reviewed it. I need to fuck around and purchase that. But I would have to say this is another hit one here. This is basically like a bonus package and kind of a shot in the arm if you like the Mystic Stylez era of 36 Mafia. So it's that same kind of concept as far as that kind of goes. They were doing a lot in like the early and mid 90s. And it just is kind of, it's basically some more horrorcore kind of sound. So if you do like Mystic Stylez, this is kind of more horrorcore sounding stuff. So if you like Mystic Stylez, this is another good revamp of that particular sound and such. Very mystical, very eerie, kind of leery type, ghoulish type stuff that you would hear September, October, November, some of that kind of fanfare. I do like that original format of 36 Mafia. They were really kind of doing some ghoulish stuff. But to talk about some of this, like the concept, I don't really know if there were singles off this album, and I don't remember if there were singles off of Mystic Stylez either. They were kind of underground, just kind of getting more of like a horrorcore and kind of ghoulish kind of rep as far as that kind of went, and at least in the 90s, they kind of were like that. Later in the 2000s, they kind of didn't do as much horrorcore and became more gangster rap and southern fried hip hop as far as that kind of went. But on these initial ones, they were really kind of like spooks in a lot of ways. Like the whole group was just really kind of ghoulish, and I like that concept. But I want to say at least the single, it says that Live by Your Rep had a, in terms of the singles, I want to say that Live by Your Rep had a radio edit. So this might have been released to radio, even though it was a diss to Bone Thugs-n-Harmony. So to talk about that one, Live by Your Rep is kind of a sleepy, dreary diss song, I would feel like. It's kind of got a mellow, hazy feel about it. It's a late day smoke a few song, I would definitely say. This is just kind of one that barely feels like a diss song. I would really kind of feel like this is just kind of one that's just more gangster rap and kind of just like a middle fingers up kind of attitude and tone as far as that kind of goes and stuff. This, I mean, some of these songs on this particular project don't feel like they came from 1995. A lot of these just feel like sleepy, kind of dreary, drugged out, just falling asleep on the couch kind of smoke music that you would listen to back in like 2002, 2003. I mean, maybe some of the stuff they did in like 2005, 2006 was a little bit more litty and that type of stuff, but this actually keeps up with some of their early 2000s albums like When the Smoke Clears and Choices the album and even The Unbreakables in some cases. This feels like a more kind of sluggish and smog induced kind of tone of some of those ones that you heard off that particular project. So I just would have to say it's pretty good to get that one. It's a pretty decent single, I would have to say. It's just really kind of dreary. It's just really kind of dreary and drowsy. I would definitely talk about just the light piano key licks on like the song are just really interesting. Just how really kind of malaised it kind of feels. It really feels like something that's not. It really kind of feels like something that's just malaise kind of autumn as far as that kind of goes. It feels like maybe a sunny day, but maybe just looking at like the autumn skies and the trees and that type of stuff. Just something. I mean, this is actually more of like a daytime song more so than a night song. There are some creeping kind of horrifying kind of night songs on here, but this is definitely one that just kind of feels like evening malaise. This is definitely one that feels like evening malaise, I would say. But to recommend the rest of the songs in the album, so there's 8 songs on here, and out of those 8 songs, I wound up recommending to you 5. So the 5 songs I recommend would be Live by Yo Rap, the Bone Thugs Diss, Throw Your Sets in the Air, Tear the Club Up, Be a Witness, and A New Nightmare, the intro. So talk about A New Nightmare. This intro is actually pretty glaring. I like this song quite a bit, or at least the concept of what it was amalgamating to. I would have liked maybe like some rap verses on here to kind of back it up a little bit more, but it is a pretty glaring intro with like chandelier like autumn malaise feel. I would definitely say it's shrill and eerie. It's a good shrill and eerie kind of intro cut. I would definitely say it just really has like these kind of menacing kind of chandelier like piano keys on the song. This really feels like something that would be kind of reminds me of like one of the songs like Pussy Got You Hooked, like off of one of those, like Pussy Got You Hooked off of Most Known Unknown, something like that. One of those type songs off of you've heard this type of production before. It's just kind of similar to like Pussy Got You Hooked or one of those songs off of Most Known Unknown. I can't really think of the one, but it's definitely similar to that. It just has real kind of haunting, nightmarish kind of glaring feel. There is some horrorcore on here. Tear the Club Up is some nightclub gleam, I would say. It's a retro 3-6 Mafia feel towards it. It's hardcore, but the feel is ahead of its time. So I would definitely feel like this is a hardcore 3-6 Mafia song. Really gets kind of more rickety and more strictly for the hardcore kind of fans. But I do feel like the feel of this song is just pretty much, it just really feels strange that this came from 1995. The stuff that they were on back in the early and mid 90s when, folks like Tupac and Biggie were still alive and some of those type folks. It's just pretty crazy as far as that kind of goes. It's interesting that Tupac was very much amongst the living when this album came out, to some of the stuff that they were doing around that time. This sounds like a song that could have been played easily in like 2001 and 2003 and some of those type times. This feels like Tear the Club Up feels like a leftover from the Unbreakables or Choices the album, or even When the Smoke Clears, one of those early 2000s 3-6. It's really kind of good. Just a gleaming kind of club bop as far as that kind of goes. But like I said, the chorus is pretty hardcore. It's a pretty rowdy and raucous kind of song, but it's definitely one that works just in the sense of what it does. So it's just kind of it's a little bit more of like a standard club bop, not quite as horrorcore, but it does pretty well with it. Throw Your Sets in the Air is kind of a gloomy horrorcore pop, I would say. It's very hazed out and smog-like, I would say, and it's just a vintage 3-6 hit. I definitely like this one. This is another one that just has like pretty haunting energy, similar to like Mystic Stylez in the 90s 3-6 Mafia, I would definitely say. This one, compared to Tear the Club Up, which sounds like it's ripped out of the 2000s, this is one that feels more Mystic Stylez like and more vintage horrorcore 3-6 Mafia. It's just a real creepy kind of song and just kind of leery as far as that kind of goes. It's really kind of like a ghastly one. It's a good smoking song. I would definitely say it's a nice one. And then Be a Witness. Be a Witness doesn't actually have 3-6 Mafia on here. It has a group called Killa Clan Kazi. So Be a Witness is kind of like an eerie spook of a song, and it feels like ghost story and story music, I would definitely say, just for kind of campfires, ghost stories, that type of stuff, just kind of hazed out smoke sessions as far as that kind of goes. Just really some glaring, hazy smokers music, I would definitely say. This is basically one of the most creeping beats on here. Just really feels ghoulish and kind of a lot more leery as far as that kind of goes. Just typical kind of stuff. Just like the concept of getting this one. This is definitely something ripped out of the Mystic Stylez days. This one's a little bit more like threatening, I would sound, compared to some of the stuff on here. It's a little bit, it's not as rowdy, but it's just kind of a creeping and leery kind of song as far as that kind of goes. It's just kind of a combination of just getting the potency of some of these different styles. Truthfully, I would have liked another song like Live by Yo Rep and Tear the Club Up. Both of those are really some leery kind of typical, really Live by Yo Rep and Tear the Club Up are like some vintage kind of typical 3-6 Mafia rowdy club starters that they do later on in the 2000s. I do like that sound, considering that that's the 3-6 Mafia I more kind of remember as such. But I do like the concept of getting some of those. But I do like some of these horrorcore ones too. I love Mystic Stylez. It's a nice album from what I remember from it. So it's just kind of a good amalgamation of just the differential styles that they did. But it just kind of makes you like some of the, to talk about some of the songs I didn't enjoy on here, like 666 Mafia just didn't have like a riveting enough beat. I don't know why that song was only like a minute 45 seconds. I mean, if they had nailed it better, if they would have had like a beat like Throw Your Sets in the Air or Live by Your Rep or something like that, or Tear the Club Up, I would have said that that could have worked better. But this was kind of trying to be like a more kind of like crunchier version of like a New Nightmare, a little bit more haunting, but just kind of in more of like a rap song format more so than an intro, but just didn't quite pull it off as well. Slippin' was trying to be like a more leery. This is probably one of the most leery beats on the album. Be a Witness is probably in the top 2 of the most leery, but Slippin' was just like a worse version of Be a Witness. It like that Koopstanika did good on the song, but just wasn't quite as compelling as Be a Witness. I feel like that beat composition was just better. It was just kind of like a 2-minute, less than 2-minute song. Slippin' was it just like the same type of beat and same type of style as Be a Witness, but it just was not quite as compelling. Probably should have had like Juicy J, DJ Paul, Crunchy Black, some of them on there that just could have helped bolster the song a little bit more. But I like the concept of at least getting it. It was just basically a worse clone of Be a Witness. And then Live by Yo Rep, the chopped and screwed edition, was just kind of a sluggish version of like that particular song, but this was not as catchy. I mean, I would have thought that, of course, being drowsy and tore up on drank or lean or something like that could have helped bolster the song a little bit more, to have made it like a real kind of drugged out variation of it, because 3-6 is pretty good at those drugged out songs, but it just didn't quite have the compellingness. I just feel like the original Live by Your Rep was pretty sleepy and drowsy anyway, so it didn't really probably need that. Maybe Tear the Club Up would have been a better one to chop and screw or something like that, or Throw Your Sets in the Air, but that one just didn't. and this was kind of meh. So that's kind of the concept. But me liking basically 5 songs out of 8 on here, or 4 songs out of 7, plus the intro song, A New Nightmare, I would go ahead and have to say. So me liking 5 songs out of 8 on this EP, I'm gonna go ahead and give this EP like a 7.25 out of 10. I feel like there's enough quality on here. Most of the original songs I did wind up liking. Really, it was just like a Really, it was just a couple 2-minute songs that just didn't stack up that well, and then like a chopped and screwed edition that just was not quite that good. So really, it was just kind of like the extra kind of miscellaneous content that just didn't stack up. Most of the original songs and original formats kind of work. So I give it a 7.25. Really kind of quality, just kind of an amalgamation of like 2000s 3-6 Mafia and Mystic Stylez era horrorcore type stuff that they did in the early days. So it's a good concept of that. Just really kind of ghastly and leery. Great smoke album. Great kind of haunting kind of feel for just ghost stories and, you know, autumn haze and autumn activities that you would do around that time. As far as that kind of goes, some good stuff. The social score I'm going to give like a 9 out of 10, just because I like these songs. Really has some unheard of and uncommon 3-6 Mafia. I don't know if every roundabout person knows about this particular project. Some folks might know about Mystic Stylez, but this is kind of one to dig up a little bit and find. Definitely, if you can find this EP on CD, I would get it, just because it's very low key, and Mystic Stylez is tough enough to find. So that's kind of the concept. So yeah, definitely mess with it. Some good songs on here, good leeriness. Like I said, I would have at least liked another song or two for like some nightclub type music. But for what it is, just the compact amount that's on this EP is good enough to be able to say that it's worth the purchase. Just as far as that goes, it's just maybe a song or two shy of being shorthanded. But for the most part, it's pretty whelmingly good. I would have to say it's pretty close, not overwhelmingly like perfected, but it's close enough to be an above average and pretty damn solid project to kind of fuck with. So in terms of the future, I would have to say, well, 3-6 Mafia doesn't really drop albums anymore. The label has stopped them from being able to put out new stuff, but they did have the Mafia 6, which had a few more. They did have the Mafia 6, which had a few more projects, and Juicy J and DJ Paul continue to drop projects and that type of stuff. So we'll get to some more of this, but this is definitely a pretty stellar gem here.